Hey, this is the Revolution. This is a storytelling channel. I decided to come on here and tell a few stories. Uh, this is about storytelling, writing a book, and telling the story in the correct way. So I decided to chill instead of just talking about writing books all the time. I just want to tell you some of the stories to share with you. And you could take the things that I say and see how I put the story together. So, August 16th, 2016, I woke up and the room was spinning. It was spinning. I couldn't stand up straight. Started sweating, and I was cold at the same time. Now, mind you, I just got up out of bed maybe a couple hours earlier to make my daughter a bottle, who was she was very young at the time. She was just born. She may be 4 or 5 months old. No, June, July. She was 2 months old. So I woke up in the middle of the night, made her a bottle because she cried. Everything was fine. But I noticed when I woke up, wasn't a big deal, that my left ear was not working. It felt real tight. Um, and I couldn't hear out of it, but I didn't sweat. I just figured that it just needed to pop open. I didn't know. Went back to sleep. Woke up, and that's when the room was spinning or whatever. So at that point, I didn't know what was going on. The paramedics was called. Um, Went to the hospital. They ran these tests on me. They couldn't find anything. Then after a while, they ran more tests on me. Then they found that I had a stroke because it didn't show up right away. Then it showed up that I had a stroke or whatever. And now I'm gonna try to answer these questions to those of you who may have just had one or want to know what one feels like. There's no obvious pain or anything. Cause a friend of mine asked me, "Did it hurt?" No, it doesn't hurt like that. But suddenly your body just doesn't work the same when you have one. You know what I'm saying? Your body doesn't work the same. Um, you're not able to move the same. Just depending on what type of stroke you have, and it depends on what type of stroke you have, and it depends on what parts of the body it affects. So you may see some people. I'm gonna say it affects some people more than others. You know what I'm saying? I The hardest part, and I'm making this video for people for those who are recovering from a stroke at this point. The hardest part is after the stroke. You become depressed. Suddenly, you're just not able to do the simple things in life that you were able to do before. Now, my suggestion is that if you just got home from the hospital and you just had a stroke, surround yourself with loving, caring people as much as you can. And if that one person is not making you feel like they got your back, like your husband or whatever, get rid of them. I found that when I went to rehab, just being me being self motivated to try to get back, into to the strength that I was. It was a lot. I'm self motivated, period. But at the time I was with someone who was not as invested in me getting back healthy as I was. But that was my daughter. I mean, this is months later. She started walking. and things like that. So she had started talking. So she was a great motivator for me to focus on to try to get better. Um, this may sound corny, but love will get you through it. More than we don't give love enough credit. If somebody's caring for you and really concerned about you, it does help tremendously in getting better. But also one of the things that I dealt with when I came home from the hospital, I just got depressed because I couldn't really do anything. I got depressed, and I'm like, well, how long is this gonna take for me to get myself back together? And don't get me wrong, I never truly got. I'm sorry, I never truly got back to the full 100%. My body never really got back 100% to the way it was before the stroke. But I got good enough where I was able to manage and be satisfied with where I was, because I always knew. I mean, I wouldn't, I was not a person that you could look at and say he had a stroke. It was nothing visible, but I felt, I didn't, I was a little bit weaker than I was before I had the stroke. Um, the thing is that a lot of it's mental. That there's a layer of process that you have to go through to get better. When you first have it, you feel like the world is over. But the one thing I would tell you is the what do they call it? The physical therapy. Very important. Very important. Be motivated to go and always go, because those physical therapists, they know what they're doing. They know, what I'm saying? They know, how to, get those muscles back to working and everything. So that was a big deal for me to even get back to. I would say I got back to like 90% of 85 to 90% of who I was before the stroke. But I can't take nothing away from physical therapy. If it wasn't for physical therapy, there's no way I could have got to the point that I was at. The same thing I said about love, having somebody that love you. If you don't want to deal with, you're gonna have to go back to the doctor. You leave the hospital, go. You don't want to deal with attitudes or bad physical therapists, who don't make you feel anything. But you know, it's very important for you to mentally work on your mental side of, because you will get better. That's the thing. It's a slow process. You can't rush the process. It probably was, for me, it probably was a year before I could start kind of, like, I literally was in the house for like 2 years, before I really, started, figuring out how to do things. And the thing is, because my body didn't work the same, what happened was my mind would figure out smarter ways to do things, not to put my body in a situation. So, where normally I took my masculinity for credit, and when I realized I didn't have that masculinity anymore, I figured out easier ways to move things, or what I'm saying. Like, even I still do this now. Even when I have to clean up, I just don't clean up. I look around the room first and decide where I'm gonna go, because I don't like walking around. I pretty much know when I get up, I know where I'm going, what I'm gonna throw away. I really study the room in terms of cleaning up. And that really helps me. It really does. But for those of you who recently had a stroke, just hang in there and know that you're gonna get better. Like, just know you're gonna get better. You know what I'm saying? And surround yourself with loving people who can empathize with your situations. I was around a lot of people who just really had no empathy. You know what I'm saying? They didn't understand what I was going through. They had no empathy. You know what I'm saying? So it was really hard for me. But that was 10 years ago. So I'm glad I got to the other side of it. I've written 3 books since then. I've had some accomplishments since I had the stroke. You know what I'm saying? And just being determined. For instance, I'm a writer. I was a writer before I had the stroke. But when I had the stroke, my left hand was weaker, and I wasn't really able to type with it. You know what I'm saying? And really move on a keyboard the way that I know how to type. So I typed up 3 books with one hand. You know what I'm saying? But nobody knows that when they read the book. Oh, this was typed up with one hand. But I got 3 books because I'm just determined to make sure I get things done the way I get done. I am deaf in my left ear. So, but, how I deal with that is that I just, what I'm saying, I tell people, if I keep saying, huh, or I might tell my daughter something to talk to me on the right side. Sometimes, I let them know, hey, I'm deaf in my left ear. If I'm doing business, I'm deaf in my left ear. Can you speak up a little bit? If I'm, like if I'm at the barber shop and the barber's talking to me, you know, if he's talking to me on that side, and I remind him, hey, I can't really hear what you're saying on my left side. So, just little things that you can do to adjust um, to your situation. But don't just think you're down and out, and don't just accept that you're never gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? Do everything you can to get back to normal. And then if you do everything you can and things still doesn't work out, then maybe you need to just accept things for what they are. But don't accept things for what they are, knowing you didn't do everything you can to get back to normal. Anyway, I'm D Revolution. Like and subscribe to my channel. You guys have a great day.